Okay, today we're going to do a radiator install on a Can-Am Commander. The 800 and the 1000s are the same in all the years. First what we're going to do is remove this center hood to access the airbox. I've removed the passenger side front tire. And you need to remove the plastic access panels, and they're just rubber grommeted and snap on. That'll let you access the radiator and all the bolts that you need to get to. Okay, now that you've got the access panel out and you can get to these bolts, what I like to do is go ahead and remove the hose clamp on the bottom hose, get you a catch pan, and loosen the hose clamp and go ahead and pull this off. I've already drained the antifreeze. Then go ahead and remove the top radiator hose. That way everything's draining away, you get the rest of the bolts loose. There's a hose and an air tube that's right here that goes to the air box. I found it's easiest to remove this to get it out of your way. There's a hose clamp here and a hose clamp back here on the firewall. I've already loosened these hose clamps. What you're going to want to do, just slide that tube out. Kind of has a long tube, it'll slide right out. Set that out of your way. That'll let you get to these this top radiator bolt a little easier. There's also two bolts that are holding the air box on. I've already removed one. Got one here. Go ahead, take them two bolts out. What I've got is, this is an air coupler. It's about 2 to 2 1/8 inch long. What you'll do is go ahead and unsnap the front two clips to that. That will allow you to lift this air box up and put this spacer underneath it. Kind of give you a little bit of room to access them top two. The other side, the other radiator mounting bolt. Okay, now that you've got that loose, I've already went ahead and taken all the bolts and hoses and clips off the other side. Okay, we got the top two mounting bolts loose. I loosen this top shroud bolt, pop that up and out of the way. That'll let you get to this bottom fan shroud bolt a lot easier. Pull that out and pull this top shroud bolt out. Okay, now that all my hoses are unhooked, the shroud's loose, I'm going to go ahead and pull this headlight clip. Not pull the headlight, just unclip it and move that up out of my way. That way, when you slide this radiator out, you don't worry about breaking any clips. Simply slide that right out, and you got your radiator out, ready to swap parts to the new radiator. Okay, now that we have the radiator out, we're going to go ahead and show you some of the differences between the stock radiator and our radiator. This radiator is only 1.5 inches thick versus our 2 1/4 thick. It is the same height. Ours is 20 inches across versus 18 for the stock, and stock is single pass, meaning it comes in the inlet, goes across the whole radiator and out the outlet. Ours is a triple pass, meaning it has baffles here a third of the way down and 2/3 of the way down on the other side. So what it does is it comes in the inlet side, comes across the top third, down to the middle third, down again, and comes across the bottom third, and then out. Everything fits in the stock location. Use the same bolts. Okay, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and take the hardware off the stock radiator. Meaning, you're going to need these rubber grommets that come off the bottom of the pins. If you don't have them, check on the frame of the outfit, make sure they're there. You can go ahead and put them on the pins. And then also you're going to need to take and remove these rubber grommets here. Simply push out this metal spacer and push down, just kind of work it out of the hole. Go ahead and take both of them out and set your stock radiator off to the side. Okay. And now to put the rubber grommets in, simply start it on the bottom, kind of roll it around. You may have to have you don't want to use a very sharp screwdriver. I'd rather prefer just using my fingers, then you don't cut or poke or ruin that rubber. Once you get that grommet in, push the metal spacer in. Make sure that you get it to where it's not bunched up, fits in that frame good, then put in your metal spacer. Now you're ready to go in with the new radiator. Now with the new radiator, it is a little bit thicker. Okay, it's a lot thicker. We go ahead and slide this in. You're going to want to be careful that you just don't force it or shove it in. You're going to have to take and work it up and over the bottom pins. You may want to have, some help or an extra hand to hold that other side, help keep that shroud from getting in your way. You get along there, pick the shroud up, make sure it's not binding anything. Once you get set in for them pins, go ahead and push that down in there. Fits pretty good for being how thick it is. Next, what you're going to want to do is I go ahead and start my top shroud bolts. You don't want to tighten them up. You just want to basically get them in there a few threads. The reason I start there first is because of this bottom shroud bolt. I go ahead and loosen it out of that, slide it up out of that bottom rubber grommet, or out of the frame. Move it as far forward as I can. And get that one started. Do the same thing on the other side. Once you do that, go ahead and slide it back into that rubber grommet slot that's in the frame. You're going to want to make sure that it's not pinched or bunched or anything like that, as to help make your radiator mounting last a lot longer. Okay. Now that you've got the other side done, I'd take your top radiator mounting bolts and get them started. Okay, easy to access. I use a wrench on the back side and a socket on the front. Allows you to get to it really easy and tighten it up. Once you've got your radiator mount bolts in, go ahead and tighten up your shroud bolts, your bottom shroud bolts, and the top radiator mounting bolts. Okay, now that you've got all the bolts tight, go ahead and hook up your radiator hoses, top and bottom. And don't forget about your headlight wire. Clip that back on. Okay, now what we're going to do is remove that spacer from the air box. Now with that back down, we'll take and put your air hose back on, slide that in, make sure that you get it pushed in all the way to where that hose clamp is going to be clamping where it's supposed to be. And now that it's there, you can go ahead and put your bolts to hold the air box on. Before you tighten them down, just go ahead and put them snug where they're just almost tight. Once you do that, you can push that air box back to where the slot is. The air box is back as far as it can go to the back of the machine. It'll allow for some clearance on your fan. If you feel like it isn't quite there as far as the clearance between the bottom of the air box and the fan, you can put some spacers underneath there to hold the air box up just a hair, whatever you feel comfortable with. We'll be back to do an overlook of the Can-Am Commander radiator install. Okay, now we're ready to button everything up. You're going to want to make sure that you check your hose clamps on your upper and lower radiator hose. Make sure that anything that you unclip, like the headlight clip or anything you undid, that you redo it back up. Make sure everything's tight and snug. Maybe double check all your bolts. Make sure you're good there. Hose clamps on your air box. Like I said, on that air box, if you feel like you need spacers, just go ahead and put them between this plastic mounting flange in the frame. You may need help with somebody holding the air box, pushing it back as you tighten up these bolts. It does allow you some more clearance if you push that air box back tight. Again, then you can put your plastic side guards on, get it all done up. Then you can go ahead and fill the radiator. You can also, what I like to do is go ahead and fill it up to where it's to the top, start the outfit, let it run, continue filling it. If it doesn't seem like it goes, go ahead and put your cap on, run it around, let it cool off before you pull the cap off to check it. Don't just count on the overflow bottle that it's full. You need to pull the radiator cap, visually look inside it and make sure it's topped off. At that point you can go out and enjoy a nice cool outfit. This will finish up the install on the Can-Am Commander. It says this will fit the 800 and the 1000 for all the years. Hope you enjoy. Thanks.